My fiancé made fun of my career at her office party. I broke the engagement right in front of them. Hey besties, I've kept this story quiet for a while, but I can't anymore. Like, share, and subscribe, it really means the world to us. My name is Marcus. I'm 30, an electrician from Harbor City. I took the long route, trade school, late-night apprenticeships, fixing things when no one else would show up. Now I run my own small business, and yeah, it's hard work, but I'm proud of every wire I've laid and every light I've fixed. Not everyone respects that kind of work, especially not the woman I thought I was going to marry. Her name's Amelia. She works in corporate marketing over in Crestview. When we met, she told me she loved how grounded I was, how I built something with my own hands. At first, I believed her. She'd say she admired my dedication, that she couldn't do what I do. But slowly, her tone changed. She'd laugh when I told her about expanding my business, call my plans cute, and brush off my long days like they were nothing compared to her office life. We were together for 4 years. And for a long time, I thought what we had was strong, unshakable, even. Amelia was smart, confident, and ambitious. She had this way of talking about her goals that made everyone stop and listen. I respected that. I loved it even. At first, it seemed like she respected me too. She said all the right things, how much she admired my drive, how rare it was to find someone so hands-on and focused. I believed her. But then slowly, little things started to feel off. I'd talk about buying a second work van, or maybe hiring someone to help with the growing demand, and she'd smile. Not proudly, but the kind of smile people give a child showing off a drawing. That's cute, she'd say. You're really thinking big. I'd laugh it off at the time, thinking she meant well. But it started to sting. Amelia talked about her job constantly, how intense her meetings were, how her boss relied on her, how draining yet important her work felt. I'd listen, support her, ask questions, even if I didn't fully get what branding synergy meant. But when I mentioned crawling in attics during heat waves, fixing burnt-out panels, or staying up late filing invoices, she barely reacted. Sometimes she'd just nod and say, "Well, at least your job doesn't follow you home." That one stung. My job was my business. It was my home. Whenever we met her friends or colleagues, she'd introduce me with a quick, vague sentence. "This is Marcus. He runs his own thing," or "He does some electrical work." Some people seemed impressed, but most just nodded and moved on. I didn't need validation from strangers, but I noticed how Amelia almost seemed embarrassed. She never said that directly, but her body language did. She never explained how I built my business from scratch. Never mentioned that I had clients all over Harbor City, or that I was saving to buy us a home. The more time passed, the clearer it became. Her pride in me had limits. At home, she said she supported me. Out in public, I was the guy who carried wires and wore boots. I was the man she loved in private, but not the one she proudly stood beside when the spotlight was on her. I started feeling like a background character in her life, someone convenient, but not someone she truly respected. There were moments I wanted to speak up, times when I almost asked, "Why do you make me feel small?" But I didn't. I convinced myself it was just stress, that maybe I was imagining it, that maybe once things settled down in her career, things would feel normal again. I kept pushing those doubts away. I told myself love meant accepting differences, that not everyone expresses support the same way. But deep down, I felt it. Something wasn't right. Respect wasn't mutual. And sooner or later, I'd have to stop ignoring that truth. Amelia's promotion changed everything. It wasn't just a new title or a bigger paycheck. It was like she stepped into a new version of herself and left me behind in the process. She started spending more and more time with her coworkers. Long lunches, late-night calls, weekend trips she called team-building getaways. Her phone buzzed constantly, full of group chats with names like marketing queens and next-level thinkers. I didn't mind her being busy. I understood ambition. But what bothered me was how I slowly stopped being part of her conversations. She used to come home excited to share things with me. Even if it was just a random moment from her day, she wanted me to hear it. But after the promotion, she'd come home exhausted, pour herself a glass of wine, and stare at her phone. When I'd ask how her day went, she'd say, "It's hard to explain," or "You wouldn't really get it." Like her life had become some exclusive language I wasn't allowed to speak. Worse, she stopped bringing me up in her world. I only realized it when one of her friends came over and said, "Wait, you're Marcus? I've heard your name once or twice, but I didn't realize you guys were engaged." That hit me hard. I started wondering how she talked about me, or if she talked about me at all. One night, I asked her directly, and she just laughed it off. "They know about you," she said, "but you're not really part of that world." That line stuck in my head. Not part of that world. Like I was some outsider watching her life through glass. Then came the invitation. She told me about her company's annual holiday party, like it was the Oscars. "Everyone important will be there," she said. "You have to come." I hesitated. I wasn't big on fancy events, and she knew that. But she kept pushing. It'll be fun, she said. You'll get to see my world for once. There was something in her tone, like it wasn't just about spending time together, but about showing me off, or showing me up. Still, I agreed. Part of me hoped I was just overthinking again. Maybe this was my chance to finally understand the side of her life she'd kept at arm's length. As the date got closer, she got more and more excited. She spent hours picking her dress, getting her hair done, planning the night down to the second. I, on the other hand, felt a tight knot growing in my chest. I ironed my best suit, shaved, made sure I looked presentable. But the feeling wouldn't go away, that this wasn't going to be just a party. It felt like a test, like I was being taken out of my world and dropped into hers, just to see how well I could survive. I didn't expect applause or praise. I just hoped to feel like I belonged beside the woman I was supposed to marry. But looking back, I realized I was walking into a place where she had already decided I didn't fit. The night of the party finally arrived. I showed up on time, wearing the best suit I owned. It wasn't designer or anything fancy, but it was clean, pressed, and presentable. I had trimmed my beard, polished my shoes, and even sprayed some cologne Amelia liked. I wanted to make sure that if I was stepping into her world, I'd do it with my head held high. She looked stunning. Hair perfect, dress flawless, heels sharp enough to cut glass. She barely glanced at me when I complimented her. "You look nice," she said without even turning her head. On the way there, I kept trying to make small talk, just to ease the tension, but she was too busy scrolling through her phone, confirming RSVPs, texting colleagues. I started to feel like just another item on her to-do list for the evening. When we pulled up to the venue, I realized this wasn't some regular office party. It was more like a high-end gala. Valet parking, ice sculptures, chandeliers, champagne towers. I stood there for a moment, taking it all in while she walked ahead, barely waiting for me. I caught up quickly, not wanting to look like I didn't belong. But the truth was, I already felt out of place. Inside, it was all fast talk and fake laughs. Everyone looked like they'd walked straight out of a fashion magazine. The men wore slim-cut suits with glossy shoes and slicked-back hair. The women looked like they belonged on red carpets. I nodded politely when people smiled at me, but most just glanced and moved on, clearly more interested in who else was in the room. I felt invisible, and yet, weirdly, exposed at the same time. Amelia, on the other hand, was glowing. She owned the room. She was shaking hands, laughing loudly, bouncing from group to group like she'd been waiting all year for this night. I tried to keep up, standing by her side, smiling where appropriate. But every time she introduced me, it was with a tone that felt off. "This is Marcus," she said once, chuckling. "He's my electrician, and not just for the house." Everyone laughed politely, and I gave a half-smile. A few people looked at me like I was an interesting novelty, someone real among all the office types. But Amelia kept it going. "He's the one who makes sure the lights stay on at home," she said to a table of coworkers, raising her eyebrows in that way people do when they think they're being clever. I kept swallowing my irritation, reminding myself it was just one night, one long night. But as I stood there, listening to tech terms and office gossip I didn't understand, I realized something. I wasn't just an outsider in that room. I was an outsider in her life. She wasn't trying to include me. She was parading me. The more I listened, the more I saw it in her eyes. Pride in herself, yes, but none in me. I wasn't her partner tonight. I was her prop. I was trying so hard to stay composed. All night I'd been swallowing my discomfort, brushing off Amelia's jabs, and pretending to enjoy myself. I kept telling myself, it's just one evening. Be patient. Don't make a scene. But when we joined a small circle of her colleagues, everything went from uncomfortable to unbearable. One of the guys, slick hair, expensive watch, turned to me and said, "So, Marcus, what do you do?" His tone wasn't curious. It was amused. I could already see the judgment behind his eyes. Still, I stayed calm and answered plainly, "I'm an electrician. I run my own business." I didn't get to finish the sentence before Amelia cut in. "Oh, he's amazing with his hands," she said with a dramatic smile. "My little handyman at home. He can fix anything, even when I break it on purpose." Everyone laughed like it was the joke of the night. I didn't. I just stood there, nodding silently while heat crept up the back of my neck. That wasn't just a joke. That was her way of putting me in my place. Right there, in front of everyone. They moved on to other conversations quickly, project launches, board approvals, and client dinners. But the taste of that moment stayed in my mouth like rust. Amelia didn't notice. Or maybe she did and just didn't care. Either way, the damage was done. Then came the worst part of the night, her official speech. She had a microphone in her hand and a full room looking at her. I watched her switch into performance mode, charming, confident, flawless. She thanked her team, her mentors, her boss. Everyone applauded. But then, just when I thought it was over, she said, "Oh, and I have to give a shout out to my fiancé, Marcus." I looked up, unsure of what to expect. For a second, I thought she might actually acknowledge me with some respect. She didn't. He's not exactly a corporate guy, she said with a smile that curled just a little too much. But if your dishwasher breaks or your lights go out, he's your guy. People laughed. Loudly. Some looked at me, trying not to let their grins show. Others didn't even try to hide it. I didn't laugh. I didn't even blink. I just stood there, heart pounding, fighting the urge to walk out then and there. I'd been publicly reduced to a joke. Not by a stranger, but by the woman who was supposed to love and respect me. She moved on like nothing happened, lifting her glass high as the applause echoed. I didn't clap. I couldn't. I felt like I wasn't in the room anymore. I was watching from the outside, some nameless extra in the background of her show. That was the moment it all snapped into focus. This wasn't about discomfort anymore. It was about dignity. Mine. And I was done letting it be trampled on for the sake of her image. The end was near. I needed air. The moment that toast ended, I slipped out of the room without saying a word. My face was hot, my jaw clenched, and I could still hear the echoes of their laughter in my head. I stepped out onto the balcony, gripping the railing like it could keep me from exploding. It was cold out, but I welcomed it. It gave me something else to feel besides shame. A minute later, I heard heels clicking behind me. Of course, it was her. Amelia. Still holding her champagne, still wearing that same smile like nothing had happened. She leaned beside me and said, "Why so serious?" "It was just a joke. Lighten up." I didn't even look at her right away. I just breathed slowly, trying to find the right words. When I finally spoke, it wasn't loud or angry. It was calm, quiet. "Do you have any idea how that felt?" She rolled her eyes. "Oh, come on, Marcus. You're being dramatic. People were laughing. It was fun." "Yeah," I said. "They were laughing. At me." She scoffed. "You're overreacting. You act like I insulted your family or something. You fix things. That's not an insult." I turned to her then. "You didn't just make fun of my job, Amelia. You made fun of me. You reduced everything I do, everything I've built, to some joke about fixing dishwashers." She frowned and looked away like I was being unreasonable. "Well, it's not exactly glamorous. You know that. It's not something people in my circle understand. I didn't mean anything by it." And there it was, that subtle disgust in her voice. Like she was apologizing not for what she said, but for my inability to take it. "So let me get this straight," I said. "Because I don't work in an office or wear a suit every day, I'm supposed to just laugh along while you throw me under the bus in front of 100 people? You're insecure," she replied flatly. "That's not my problem." I looked at her, really looked at her. The woman I had supported, respected, defended for 4 years was now standing there, mocking the thing I took the most pride in. Not because she didn't understand it, but because she didn't value it. Not really. She never had. "You don't get it," I said, shaking my head. "It's not insecurity. It's respect. You never gave me that. Not truly. You pretended to admire me, but tonight you showed me how you really see me." She crossed her arms and muttered, "So what? You're breaking up with me over a joke." That question didn't even sting. It confirmed everything. "I'm not breaking up with you over a joke," I said. "I'm walking away because I finally see the truth. You don't respect me, and I can't marry someone who looks down on me." I didn't wait for her response. I walked back inside, calm and steady. My heart was racing, but not with fear, with clarity. I knew exactly what I had to do next. And trust me, I did it. I walked back into the room like a man on a mission. Not angry, not storming, just focused. People were still chatting, laughing, sipping their drinks like nothing had happened. But to me, everything had changed. I scanned the room for the coat rack. I wasn't sticking around for dessert, and I sure wasn't offering any more fake smiles. As I reached for my coat, I heard her heels again. Amelia, fast behind me, her voice low and sharp. "Marcus, what are you doing?" she hissed. "Don't make a scene." I didn't answer. I just kept moving, sliding one arm into my coat. She stepped in front of me, trying to block the exit. "You're embarrassing me," she said under her breath, eyes darting around to make sure no one was watching. "Can we please talk about this later? Don't ruin my night." That's what got me. Her night. Her embarrassment. Not once had she asked how I felt. Not once had she acknowledged what she did. She just wanted to cover the mess, keep the image clean. As if this entire thing was some PR issue she needed to manage. By now, a few heads had turned. People were starting to notice. I looked around the room, saw the same faces that had laughed at her toast. Their smiles were gone now, replaced with confusion. I wasn't about to walk out quietly. Not this time. I turned to face her fully. "You humiliated me all night long," I said clearly. "You cracked jokes about my work, treated me like a punchline, and expected me to laugh along like it was all fine." Her face stiffened. "Marcus, stop. You're blowing this out of proportion." "No," I said louder now. "I'm saying what should have been said years ago. You don't respect me. You never did. You just smiled in private and mocked me in public. I'm done." And right there, in front of her colleagues, I took the engagement ring off my finger. I didn't toss it. I didn't make a dramatic gesture. I simply handed it to her. Calm, clean, final. Gasps rippled through the crowd. Amelia's face turned bright red, not with sadness but rage. You're unbelievable, she snapped. You think anyone else is going to put up with your fragile ego? I smiled, not with sarcasm but with relief. I don't need anyone to put up with me, Amelia. I just need someone who sees me for who I am and respects it. Then I turned to the stunned room and said, "Enjoy the party, folks," before walking out without looking back. No drama, no begging, no apologies, just closure. As I pulled onto the highway heading back to Harbor City, I didn't feel regret. I felt something far rarer, relief. For the first time in a long while, there was no pressure weighing down my chest, no second-guessing my worth, no performance to keep up. Just the hum of the road, the city lights fading in the rearview mirror, and silence. Beautiful, honest silence. But peace doesn't last when someone's desperate to control the narrative. The moment I stepped through my apartment door, my phone lit up. Dozens of missed calls, voicemails, texts piling in like a storm. Amelia had gone from silent shock to rapid-fire damage control. At first, it was rage. How dare you humiliate me like that? Then it turned dismissive. You always were too sensitive. Minutes later, she tried sounding calm. Let's be adults about this. But even her version of calm was laced with blame. She didn't want to fix anything. She wanted to rewrite what happened. I didn't answer. Not once. The next day, it started hitting social media. Posts that didn't mention me directly, but the message was clear. Sometimes men can't handle powerful women. When you outgrow someone, they call you arrogant. Her friends jumped in quickly, offering heart emojis and clapping gifs, calling her a queen, and cheering her on for being so strong. Meanwhile, people who knew both of us stayed quiet. No one reached out to hear my side. She wasn't just salvaging her image, she was rewriting the entire relationship. In her version, I wasn't hurt. I wasn't disrespected. I was intimidated, insecure, unable to handle a successful woman. It didn't matter that I owned my own business, paid my bills, and supported her dreams for years. In her eyes, and in the eyes of her curated online circle, I was now just a jealous, fragile man who couldn't take a joke. A few mutual acquaintances sent vague messages. Hey, I saw the post, everything okay? But none of them really wanted the truth. They just didn't want to pick sides too soon. It was easier to believe the louder voice. What shocked me most wasn't that she tried to twist the story. It was how easily people accepted it. They didn't ask questions. They didn't wonder if there was more to it. They saw a well-dressed, articulate woman saying all the right things, and that was enough. No one saw the way she chipped away at my confidence for years. No one watched her laugh at me in front of 100 strangers. But here's what I realized: silence isn't weakness. Sometimes it's power. I didn't post anything. I didn't fight back in her comment section. I didn't try to explain myself to people who didn't care enough to ask. I just kept living, working, breathing, healing. Because at the end of the day, the truth doesn't need to shout. It just needs time. And time, unlike people, never lies. A few days passed, and the noise began to fade. Amelia's online posts slowed down, and the constant buzzing of my phone finally stopped. I stayed quiet, kept working, focused on my clients and my business. I wasn't looking for closure anymore. I thought I had all I needed when I walked out of that party. But life had more to show me. It started with a message from someone unexpected. Sophie, one of Amelia's coworkers. We'd only met briefly at the party, but I remembered her being in the group that laughed at the dishwasher joke. Her message was short. Hey Marcus, I feel terrible about what happened. Can I call you? Curious, I agreed. When we spoke, she didn't waste time sugarcoating. I laughed because everyone else did, she said, her voice low with guilt. But honestly, the moment you walked out, I realized it wasn't funny. It was cruel. She paused for a long moment, then added, I think you should know. Amelia talked about you like you were some kind of safe option. Like she settled. She used to joke around the office that being with you was a break from pressure. Like you were simple. I stayed quiet. Hearing it said aloud hurt more than I expected, even after everything that had happened. Sophie went on. She always made it sound like she was doing you a favor. That she chose you because you were easy to manage, predictable. Like you'd never leave no matter what. I thanked her. Not because it made me feel better, but because it confirmed what I had already started to suspect. Still, hearing it from someone inside her circle cut deeper than I'd prepared for. Then came the second blow. Jen, Amelia's best friend since college, texted me out of nowhere. I hadn't spoken to her in months, not since a double date long ago. But she reached out with something more direct than Sophie ever could. I know we haven't talked, but I wanted to tell you something. I don't agree with what Amelia did, and I think you deserve to know the truth. We talked for nearly an hour. Jen had seen it all, The way Amelia bragged to friends behind my back, how she always described me as too grateful to leave, how she would laugh about having the upper hand in our relationship. According to Jen, Amelia had always seen me as a stepping stone, someone to support her emotionally, financially, and logistically while she climbed her way up the corporate ladder. She used to say you were the kind of guy who'd stay loyal no matter how she treated you, Jen said. That you didn't know how lucky you were to have her, and that's why she could say whatever she wanted without worrying about consequence. Those words stayed with me, not because they shocked me, but because they explained so much. The dismissive jokes, the public humiliation, the cold glances when I didn't meet her standards. She never saw me as an equal. She saw me as someone beneath her, safe, disposable, and quiet. But I wasn't quiet anymore. That's the moment I truly processed it all. Not just the party, not just the breakup, but the years of subtle jabs, backhanded compliments, and fake admiration. It had always been there. I just hadn't wanted to see it. And now that I had, I finally felt free. After everything, I returned to Harbor City not with bitterness, but with clarity. The chaos had passed, the silence felt peaceful, and for once my life was mine again. No second guessing, no walking on eggshells, just freedom. I poured myself into my business. What started as a one-man operation grew fast. Word spread about the quality of my work, and before I knew it, I was hiring help and booking jobs weeks in advance. The energy I had wasted trying to earn Amelia's respect, I finally gave it back to myself. Every socket I fixed, every house I wired, every client that shook my hand, it all reminded me I wasn't small. I was just underestimated. I sold the engagement ring, not out of spite, but because it represented something that never existed, respect that was never real. I used the money to take a solo trip to the mountain, something I'd always wanted to do. No service, no noise. Just snow, silence, and a cabin. I sat by a fire every night, thinking not about the past, but about how far I'd come. When I got back, I reconnected with a few friends I'd unintentionally drifted from. We laughed harder than I had in months. Some of them even offered to help with my growing business. And when I had extra time, I started teaching free electrician classes to a few local teens. It felt good to share what I knew. To show someone that trade work isn't less than, it's valuable. It's real. And it matters. As for Amelia, word travels. Her office buzzed with gossip after that night. People remembered how she mocked me, how I left without yelling, just clear and calm. Some quietly respected that. Others began to see her in a different light. When it came time for a major promotion, she didn't get it. From what I heard, the higher-ups questioned her judgment and emotional intelligence. Karma has a quiet way of doing its job. I never spoke to her again. Never needed to. Some people are meant to teach you something, not love you. She taught me what I will never accept again, disrespect. Looking back, I don't regret anything, not even the pain. Walking away was the best decision I've ever made. Because love without respect isn't love at all. It's control dressed in affection. And no matter how glamorous someone may seem, if they tear you down to build themselves up, they were never worth standing beside. So here's my advice. If someone treats you like you're lucky just to be with them, walk away. You'll thank yourself. Do you think I made the right call by ending the engagement right there in front of everyone? Or should I have walked away quietly and dealt with it later? I'd love to know what you think in the comments. And if you enjoy stories like this, be sure to subscribe and hit the notification bell so you don't miss the next one.